Welcome to Authentic Storytelling. I'm your host, Linda Joy, storytelling guide, mindset elevation coach, and publisher of the beloved Aspire magazine. I just love this series. In the Authentic Storytelling series, you'll meet empowered women like today's guest, Carolyn, who share the wisdom, lessons, and transformation they experienced writing their sacred soul story. Through each woman's soulful conversation, you'll discover how those lessons can empower you to rewrite the stories you are telling yourself so you can craft a new one that aligns with the truth of who you are. Joining me today is Carolyn Marie. She's an old friend, and she's also a creative catalyst and possibility igniter for midlife women ready to create their next best chapter of life. She has spent 20 years dedicated to personal study of energy, spiritual, and personal growth modalities that she's used to transform her own life and is now supporting others to do the same. She is passionately committed to supporting women in midlife to explore what lights them up, excavate what's holding them back, and to activate their soul's gift to live with purpose, passion, and joy. You can learn more at carolynmariecoaching.com. All her details are also in the show notes with the link. Welcome, Carolyn.
Oh, thank you, Linda. Thank you for having me.
Well, your story, and this is a personal one because the name of her story is I Got You. And I say it like that because I've been part of her journey for so long. We've known each other. And when she shared this story, I'm like, what a sacred reminder for all of us. So before we dive in, Carolyn, I want to share a beautiful quote from your book. And this is really embodies not only your personal journey, but also the vision you hold for the woman you work with. And it's release fear and say yes. Do the thing that is calling you and feel the wings on your heart take flight. Right? Say yes despite the fear. So one of the things that I want to talk about is like in the stories, I noticed there's like a woven red thread. There's a theme, right? So in your story, I Got You, what would you say the key theme or life lesson is woven throughout your story?
The key theme and life lesson woven through my story is that of really trusting yourself, but also trusting there is a higher power walking beside you. It is, well, no matter what that power is for you, spirit, creator, God, the universe, your higher self, there is a part of us, there is a bigger energy that has a plan for us, right? It knows the plan for us. We couldn't imagine the plan for ourselves. We can't think that big for ourselves, right? Fear gets in the way. But when we put trust into that there is a plan, there is another power guiding me, right? That I can put my trust in that. And I can follow the signs, the synchronicities, and the nudges that show up along the way. And I'm getting the chills as I say that, and just trust each step along the way. It's really the theme is about trust and faith in yourself, and that you are never in this alone. That's the theme.
And it's funny because I've witnessed you live your own message because we go back to when when you first attended one of my events way back. But because we've been connected so long, I've watched you live this, embody it, and step through your own fears to say yes to life with that belief that you are divinely supported and that I got you message. So in a short, just a little sound bite, so they understand what I got you means in the context of this, of your story. Just share that little piece so they understand what those words mean to you.
Okay, I'll make this as succinct as I possibly can. So I was going through a very rough period in my life, and it was just one challenge after the other. And one day I just sat at my kitchen table and I got to the point where I just cried. I cried out, I can't do this anymore. I don't want to do this anymore, And then I got this like lightning bolt hit and I heard the word church. you know? And I hadn't been to church in years at this point. And I just went, I heard it. I said, all right, I'm going to follow it. And I quickly looked up a church in my area. To make a long story short of that was detailed. I ended up at the wrong church, which we all know was the perfect church, right? And let me back up just a second. Before I was at the table saying I'm tired of doing this, I really said to myself that I just want somebody to have my back. Like I'm tired of doing this alone, is part of what I was saying at the table. So fast forward into the church, I'm in there and I sit in the back. I'm trying to hide now. And this congregation all knew each other. So I stuck out like a sore thumb. So they came over to me, introduced themselves. And one elderly woman, older woman, sat next to me on my right. And this young guy sat next to me on my left. And I kind of wanted to hide, but I knew some reason I was feeling very, very comforted by them. The music started. I started bawling. The woman on my right put a hand on me, and I just felt like this, like unwavering flow of unconditional love and support from this woman. And I just, unlike myself at this time, I allowed myself to receive that. And the next thing, shedding tears, there was a hand on my shoulder, and all I heard were the words, I got you. And my whole insides just like fell. And I knew in that moment, getting chills again, and I knew in that moment, God was using this young man to send me a message, you
Yeah,
know,
Earth
and
angel, right?
yep, an earth angel at 100%. And from that day forward, the I got you kept showing up as a signpost and still does. And I'm never, I'm still always amazed, but never shocked. You know what I mean?
Well, the funny part is, for the viewers, Carolyn and I communicate, on Facebook Messenger and stuff. And I didn't know this story. This is before she wrote the story, before she submitted the story. One day we were just in conversation about something she was working on, and I responded, I got you. And she goes, are you kidding me? Right? She goes, you don't know the meaning of those
Yeah.
words. And then, of course, I discovered the meaning of those words to her through this. That's a beautiful story, but it's also a beautiful theme in your story. And one I'm noticing through all these conversations in this authentic storytelling is trust in our source of love and trust in ourselves um, has touched almost every woman's story, very different ways. But I think we're all hearing the message, ladies. It's
Right.
time to trust. It's time to stop trying to micromanage the divine, as I say. So thank you, Carolyn. So in
Thank
question
you.
number 2, as you discovered the going through the authentic storytelling framework and program, it really is not just a writing process. It's an invitation to use storytelling to connect with your higher self, peel back layers, kind of like you do with your clients and excavating stuff,
Right.
and really share about the experience you have, but from a different lens. So the question is, how did writing your soul story for divine synchronicity heal, empower, or even transform you in some way?
This is a really interesting question because as I was writing this story, some of the story has taken place in the past, right? So there was a lot of healing that took place up to this part, moving through some of that already. But it was really writing the story as the observer of the story was seeing it from a different perspective was really enlightening for me because I got to see parts of it that I couldn't see while I was in it, of course, right?
Hmm.
And yeah, I couldn't see parts of it while I was in it. And so there's twofold to this. One is I got to, it almost like created, which is why I love about the story. And when I go back to read it, I go, oh, yes. It almost created a map, right, for myself and for anybody who's reading it, right, of how, when you're in that space of, who am I? What's next? Where am I going? That stuck place where you don't know what's next. When you go back and read a story like this, you start to remember who you are. You start to remember where you came from, what's possible, and that you're not alone in it. Right. So like that was huge healing moments for me because got to see things on a from a much higher perspective instead of being in it. And if I may go back to what you just said about you saw a theme going through everybody's stories about trusting yourself and trusting the universe. And as you were saying that, and I was like, yeah, of course that's the theme, right? Because we're co-creators, right? We're not in this to create alone, we're co-creating with another power, right? And so you'd see that in the story. But one of the real pivotal things that came to the story is I really birth birthed a new aspect of myself, the author, the writer.
I
Yeah,
witnessed that. Yes.
yeah. So
Like
there was an yeah,
embodiment now.
yeah. There was an evolution taking place on the soul level that I didn't know at the time. I was just writing my story for personal healing and to help others that may need to hear my story that may help them go through with it, help them get through what they're going through. But then I realized, like, no, I birthed this author, this writer, this part of me that has been in existence for a very long time. There's always been that little, part of me way back into like grammar school, and when she was able to come through this project and and blossom into this, I don't know, like I have to welcome this new part of me, and I want
It's
to
like
explore that more and further and deeper and see what else is possible. So possibility is birthing possibility,
it
right?
is. Part of your message too is about saying yes despite your fears, and
Mhm,
stepping into a book project is a vulnerable moment, right? It's like,
mhm,
oh, I'm going to be in this, and you said yes despite fears, trepidation, because what I witnessed anyway, and I believe is your truth, is your soul knows that you were born to be a writer. And that's one of your gifts of communication. So, but you did the steps. And ladies, this is what I want you to hear when we talk about yes and possibility, and I've got you. The opportunities will come, but it's up to us to trust, going back to what Carolyn said at the beginning, and step forward and say yes, despite that small fearful voice that is always did it. Was that true for you too, Carolyn?
Oh, 100%. I was so afraid to jump on the project. The only reason I did it and jumped right in is because there were signs and synchronicities that led me to it. It was undeniable that I was being called to it. So, I've through this whole process and a few other things, I've like kind of coined the word as part of my own theme is that conscious courage, right? That thing we know we want to do, right? But we have self-doubt and we don't fully trust ourselves. But if we asked ourselves, if I fully trusted myself, if I believed in myself, is this something I would love to be a part of? And if the answer is yes, right? Then you choose to say yes. You discern, is this really something for me, right? And if it is, you do it, you do it afraid, right? You do it scared, you do it in the fear, because it is so liberating when you get through those initial fear barriers and you looking at your article or you're looking at your product or you're looking at the class you did just had taken that you were afraid of taking. You just cooked the first meal on your own without a recipe that you were afraid just to throw together. It doesn't have to be grandiose. It could be the smaller things. It's different for everybody, right? But once you do it, you're like, hell yeah, I did that.
Yeah, it's like, yeah,
I
it's kind of like you get the little inner
did
sassy
that.
girl. She's
Your
got
little
you.
sass comes out. Yeah.
Yeah, it's like I always do, like, oh yeah, baby.
All
That's
right. And it's
beautiful.
fun. You're like, and just give yourself permission to own that, right? And celebrate that. And
I think
the
that's
next time it's not as scary,
yeah,
right? Yeah.
so beautiful, my friend. So, what is a piece of wisdom more than you already shared, a sacred reminder or a life lesson that you hope women take away from your story?
It is truly my deepest desire that the women who read this story, if they only walk away with remembering this, say yes to you, say no to fear. that would be the piece that I would want you to remember. I would want you to imprint in your heart. And I say that, I'm getting the chills again. And I say that because you deserve it. I deserve it. You deserve it. We deserve it. We deserve to feel that unbridled soul level joy, right? And we ourselves keep ourselves from it, right? Because of fears and old beliefs and patterns and all those things that no longer serve us. So if you can just quiet that and just look at the like positive outcomes, the positive feelings, the joy, like if you can imagine for a moment the joy you'd feel by saying yes to yourself, then do that. Say yes, do that thing.
It's a sacred reminder for all of us, even myself, as I'm stepping into a new
Mm.
chapter um, through my business. It's like we feel the yes from our soul, like I know without a doubt this is my next step. And then the little voices will come, and I'm like, listening to the higher version of myself, not the lower version of myself. And that's what I witness in your journey, your story, the work you do with clients is like, say yes to possibility. Possibility is the connection to our higher self. It's that frequency.
Mm.
Um, and I've just loved watching you unfold. And I love that you embraced your writer author because she
I
writes for
love her too.
magazine. So I'm like, let's get that wisdom out
Yeah.
there. And just, I want to invite everyone. Carolyn's details are all down below, but it's carolynmariecoaching.com, but you'll find it all in the show notes with her bio and everything. Visit her site, check out her offerings, say yes to possibility, my friends. And Carolyn, I'm so grateful that you stepped through your fears, said yes to the Divine Synchronicity Project, and sharing your wisdom.
Thank you so much. Thank you so much for lending me the opportunity to do so. And again, I just remind myself to say yes.
Yes, my friend,
Mm.
say yes. You won't believe what's waiting for you on the other side. That's the magical part.
Yes, that
Yes,
is.
despite the fear, I'm going to tell you what's on the other side of that fear is there's so much beauty and surprise on that other side that you couldn't have mapped out with your smaller self mind.
No, no,
You couldn't. You
you can't.
couldn't.
You just can't. You can't. You don't think that big for yourself. Yeah.
So again, thank you, Carolyn, and blessings, everyone. We'll see you on the next episode.